What's your morning routine? I get that a lot, and I'm sure you're trying to design it yourself. Maybe you have a process. Maybe a lot of it's even subconscious, right? You shower, shit, shave, you make the coffee, this, that. Who knows if you're working from home? You got to go to the office. You boot up the machine. Maybe the machine's on. Who knows? You got real time quotes. You're looking at seeing what happened overnight. Maybe you're checking research reports. You're checking social media. So we talk about routine versus ritual, and it's another way to study yourself, which is what I talked about on Monday. And when we talked about, where does the frustration come from? It's kind of built in many ways if you're not doing the right things. So I think of ritual as something that could be religious or maybe cultural, right? It's part of your belief system. It certainly probably feels good to be part of something. It could be a tradition. Whereas routine, when I think of routine, I think of process, right? And that's really, to me, where you make your money. All the other stuff, the ritual, feels good. I gotta have my desk a certain way. I gotta have my mouse. I got my hotkeys all done, and I need my shit all together this way, or else it makes me nuts. Right? I'm not a control freak. I'm speaking hypothetically. That is not me at all. If you saw my desk, you'd X off the video. But anyway, I know where it's one of those things where it's a disaster, but I know where everything is. When you think about studying yourself, take a diary of a time block, whether it's minute by minute, not just of the calls you have to make or the emails you have to send or whatever, but just think about how you spend your day. Where does your time go? And you'd be surprised to see when you measure all that up how much time actually goes to stuff that's feel good, doing feel good things as opposed to things that actually make you money. And it's not that it's bad, but you definitely don't want to spend a lot of time focused on doing things that are about feeling good necessarily when you're avoiding doing the actual work, right? Which is, where's your setup across what particular name, what time frame are you doing, and who, what, when, where, why, or how are you putting the trade on? That's all that matters. Ideation to execution, and how can you keep that process as narrow as possible? Because again, we get paid to execute, not to know stuff. And I know a lot of folks who are like, ready, aim, 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 and they never shit or get off the pot basically because they're afraid. They know what they know intellectually, and they know probably best practices. They can spout the stuff as if they're inventing it on the fly, but they can't necessarily do it themselves. And my goal with this channel is to help you succeed, as fast as possible, knowing what the real issues are, for traders and anyone who wants to perform. I can assure you, if you want to get to be a high performer, you have to be a normal performer first. And there's too many people, as far as I'm concerned, who are out talking to you about trying to be a super performer, and you can't do a week of consistent behavior. So that to me is like getting a PhD when you're a freshman in high school. It's something you could do, but it's a long way away. Because even doing something for a week, you quit smoking, quit drinking, you give up carbs. I don't know what it might be in your life. You know, you do extra research in the evening. I'm not here to judge anybody, but you can go to school on yourself and see where did those instances come up in your life before, and how well did you stick to it? How long did you do before you got bored, frustrated, you didn't see the results, you lost interest, it became too arduous, so you switched. And this happens in the marketplace too. People want to see immediate results, so they abandon ship and they try something else. And that doesn't work, and then they start trading foreign exchange, and that doesn't work, as it doesn't work for the majority of people who do it. Then it just keeps getting worse because they can't stick to anything. They're looking for the dopamine hits, and they like the ritual of the studying part because it feels good to learn new stuff. I'll admit to that myself. But then you have to break it down and say, okay, well, what of this can I actually use to make money? How can this help me with my craft? And so when you think about, routine, think of the word routine. You talk about ritual versus routine. Think of routine as the process. And I always like to think like, man, the world is so sophisticated. I got to look at this news source and this and that. I got to read this research. Like, there's too many parts. Again, I mentioned the book that might help you if you're stuck and you want to understand how shortening the process can help you. The book was called Simple Heuristics That Make Us Smart. And that's what you can do, is do heuristical studies, both on the markets and perhaps even on your own behavior, and marry those two together so that, to me, from you can go from point A to point B in no time. It's a 2 or 3 step process. You know how to source your names, you know how to position size, measure the vol, you know how to enter a buy stop order and or an alert first into your trading platform, and keep it super simple. If you have 95 things to think about or overlays on your screen, it's too many, and that gives you enough enough data points to shut you down and keep you in that indecision, which might be the goal anyway if you don't have a strong enough goal to really motivate you to put on the behavior or to execute the behavior that you need, right? You need to know what you're doing it for, and that goal should help you understand what your process is. What you don't want to do is junk up your day with a bunch of ritualistic things that make you look and feel to an outsider like a trader, because I did that for a while too. I was doing, I was keeping my charts at night and doing all these fancy stuff. And I was like, this is all taking up a lot of time and it's too comfortable and I'm not getting any results from it, right? So people like to say, man, I'm brutally honest. Well, that's awesome. That's a great trait to have, but be that on yourself and with and for yourself, because you'll be the best benefactor as opposed to trying to judge other people. Judge yourself with that same magnifying glass and watch your performance jump, and go geometric. I have just found that at the end of the day, when you think about making attempts, you're going to have to live with the uncertainty. That's the tricky part. Doing ritualistic things feel good and they keep you from having to put on trades. You see what I'm saying? So this could be a great learning exercise for you that you don't even have to spend any money on. You just keep track of your own behavior. When I was a kid and starting out on Wall Street, I remember I had a Franklin Daily Planner. And I used to write everything in that book, and I used to carry it with me to the damn bathroom. I know too much information. But I would log everything, like every idea, everything that I tried, and this and that. And I would write notes like experiment with this or get the data here, go into the spreadsheet. And that's really what I would do. It was kind of like my playbook, if you will. Not from a playbook of like, I want to trade these chart patterns. Like I always want to look at the data, because I understood expected values. I understood how you could count cards, for example, right? So I knew that there was a way to get an edge. I wasn't sure how to do it, but I knew that it was probably possible. And I just had to look at the data long enough to try to find something, you see? So that was part of my routine, was the research, was to break down the data, to look at the nature of prices so that I could become a really good price action trader. Then I could learn how to marry, and as over time, learn the fundamentals for sure, kind of en passant, not to like become Joe CFA analyst so I can spout all this information on the sugar market or whatever, or stocks, but just so that I could learn how to say like, okay, this is a piece of fundamental data that came out that normally you would think is super bullish, yet the instrument hasn't gone up at all or barely. That means there's either big sellers above the market or everybody kind of knew that information, but I'm not going to be like Joe Freshman jumping into a big position at that moment in time, because now I learned over time how to marry the fundamentals with the technicals. That's something that you can definitely do. But more importantly, I would focus on learning your process. Focus on the process, stay out of the results, realize this is a game of probabilistic outcomes, and that the best thing that you can do is find something, an idea or a process that's very statistically robust, that's not curb fit or cherry, the data is where the data is data mined, and then put on every one of those trades that you possibly can. Again, you don't have to risk a lot, risk $5 or $10. The goal is to get to that routine / process so that you can replicate it over and over and over again. And then once you start to see some consistency in your behavior and the thing exhibits a trading edge, i.e. expected value in real time, then you can scale. And that's the next part. But you don't have to worry about that up front. You don't have to worry about scaling until you can get the bottom line, behavior down. You like this video? Check out this one.